On to today's Matua City Strategy and Delivery Committee meeting. Please let me or the Democracy Service advisors know if you intend to leave the meeting. Morning tea will be at 10:30. I would also like to welcome the public who are joining us today in our new chambers. Today's meeting is being live streamed, and in our new chambers, the public gallery is visible on cameras. And if you don't want to be captured by the camera, please make sure you sit further on the back. Am I right, Steph? Yep. Before we go to Karakia, I would like to wish our mayor a happy birthday. He turns today 61. And we wish you many more years to come. Well, we will see at the morning tea time. Maybe actually someone volunteered and we have a birthday cake today. So now we go to Karakia. Whakatae tihu tikuro, whakatae tihu tiktutunga. Kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e he ake ana te atikura, he tio, he huka, he huhu, ti he Maori ora. I move now. Is there any apologies for today's meeting? Sam O'Brien, early departure. Hopefully we will finish before that. And
excuse me,
Tony.
Just for partial absence.
Partial absence. May I put the motion for vote now, please? I move it, and Councillor Matthew seconded. Thank you. Conflict of interests? I don't see any. And now we go to the public participants. Today we have 8 public participants, 7 of them organizations. Oh, yeah, sorry. Confirmation of last minutes. And Councillor Compton moving the minute. Seconder, Councillor Foon. Thank you. May I put the vote? Your interest declaration is noted, and you have already sent the email, so it's noted already in the minute, Councillor. Thank you. There. It's a new one, so it's just a bit of a drama. Public. Okay, it's carried. Thank you. There is no item on the agenda, so we just go to the next agenda item, which is public participation. As I said, we have 8 public participants today, and 7 of them representing organizations. Since we have only 1 hour for public participation, and today I'm just giving only 5 minutes for organizations. That being said, we will see. I will tolerate 1 minute or so to go over it. And first online is Felicity Wong from Heritage New Zealand.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Historic Places Wellington would like to thank very much the officers for their survey. Is it? Sorry, yeah. The analysis of which is really good in your paper, and it's great to see so much citizen support for heritage. We all want an attractive and affordable city, but, Ben's pet hate, the Miramar tank, is a political gift that keeps on giving. There's 20 pages of survey results in your paper, and only one page, page 50, with a list of 61 properties where the apparent owner wants the heritage status removed. a decision by council today to make an application to the minister needs more work to consider before it's actually initiating a fast-track district plan delisting process. A decision to apply to the minister for approval would need to be taken under section 80C2 of the RMA as it was amended at the end of last year, which has 4 criteria set out in the Act, and only one of those are owner views. The other 3 are heritage significance, physical condition, and the economic viability of current or proposed use. So it's a balancing process, but councillors only have before them information about owner views. There's no information about heritage significance, the property's condition, or what is proposed in terms of economic viability. And I'd just say that 5 of the 5 of the 61 properties are Heritage New Zealand Category 1. So we say 4, but I found another one last night. So they have very extensive heritage significance to the nation, and it would be shameful for the Wellington City Council to advocate to remove protections from Plishka's first house in Nio, Goldie's Bray in Wadestown, the Elliott House in Kent Terrace, the Home of Compassion Creche in the Pukeaho Memorial Park, and Wellington's oldest house, Crofton, 1857 in Nio. A further 20 properties are Heritage New Zealand Category 2, so 40% of the list are significant heritage. And many of the 61 properties are earthquake-prone buildings, which soon will be exempt from costly strengthening. So moving to advocate for delisting now would put the cart before the horse. In terms of attractive and affordable, here's a good example, 99 Willis Street, certainly attractive, but is it affordable? And the Mayor's proposed Urban Development Office could help owners with sympathetic development ideas and working with owners on practical problems to modernise and adaptive reuse. Rates relief, low interest loans and expert advice are all needed to be affordable. Many of the properties are in the Cuba and Courtney Place heritage areas, and almost all, are Heritage New Zealand Category 2 listed. So para 18 of the paper explains that delisting the specific property will not significantly affect the district plan rules because the rules relating to heritage areas will still remain. This one is 134 Cuba Street, Hunters and Collectors. Yep, the Hunters and Collectors building. This was a suite gallery. This is the old Wellington Education Board building that earthquake prone doesn't expire till 2030. There's an old house behind the old laundry bar. I think Lampard Flats is a good example. The nut shop is in the bottom, and they pay very, very low rent at the moment, which they're very happy with. But they will be exempt under the new rules. Several shops in Upper Cuba Street, and then in Courtney Place, we've got the old Mishmosh Bar. They want to be delisted. And Courtney Market, otherwise known as the Griffiths Building. And sometimes the Heritage New Zealand names are different to the names that you've got in your list, and even the addresses are different. So Tonks Avenue, Tonks Grove, for example, you've got, whereas Heritage New Zealand, which is not us, we're the advocacy group. We're an NGO, I might add, not the government thing. The government thing calls them Footscray Ave. Anyway,
if you can wrap up now, Felicity, your time is coming.
Can I just finish by saying, to ask for the delisting, to permit the demolition of Catherine Mansfield's house in Karori, Chesney Wold, would be cultural vandalism. She talks about that house. This is not the one in Thorndon, it's the one she lived in for most of her time in New Zealand. She talks about it in The Doll's House, Prelude, A Birthday, and The Wind Blows. And we're concerned mostly about little worker cottages on the edge of the city, so a row of cottages at the end of City and Devaro Street. 2 of them have asked for delisting. And there's about 20 big private homes on the list,
I'm
which
sorry
are in good condition.
interrupt
And we're not.
you, Felicity. I think the time is up now. And if you can just say the last word.
Okay, all owners are paying killing rates and they need help. And 6 of the properties were fast-track delisted just 2 years ago, including owner no-shows. So it would be a bit of a repeat of
Thank you.
fast-track.
Thank you, Felicity. Really appreciate it. I understand 5 minutes is a bit short, but we appreciate your time and your point is well noted. Next, we have Sue Coates from Zero Waste and on agenda 2.4. Sue West, you can either there or you can join us in the seat. Feel free.
Thanks, I'm happy to stand. Asa Marie, I'm Sue from Zero Waste Aotearoa, and I'm here today to speak to the organics paper and to the big questions that it throws up. I want to encourage you guys to do 3 things. 1, hold on to the budgets that you've already set aside while you figure out the best pathway forward. There's a lot of moving parts to make sense of. It's a good time to ask the really hard questions and to unpack the economic and financial model so that you guys can align that with the zero waste strategy, with Te Atakura, and with the waste minimisation and management plan that Council and this community have already signed up to. There are a lot better options for our city than going big on landfill. 2, I want you to use your share of the waste disposal levy funds to get practical new projects happening here in the city. The waste disposal levy funds come from businesses and households. From 1st of July, they'll be paying $70 a tonne on every tonne of rubbish that goes to Southern Landfill. The council gets a share of that back. The rest stays with government. The levy is put in place to create a pool of capital to invest in alternatives to landfilling. And at the moment, Wellington City has $9 million of that sitting in its rainy day fund. Now, that's quite a few years of unspent levy. What that tells me is that Wellington businesses and households are paying into that fund year on year, but they're not getting any investment in practical alternatives. And 3, I want you to look to the community sector for alternative solutions so that Wellington City can quickly scale up organics diversion. You have community enterprises, you've got community organisations, and you've got communities right across the city, right here in Wellington, that want to work with you to divert food and organics and garden, green waste. Council can help. You can set aside CapEx and OpEx budgets to fund their work. You can give multi-year contracts for service rather than one-off grants. You can remove the barriers like get access to land for compost boxes or get mulch from the parks team to support the composting process. And you can create markets for organics collection and composting by requiring multi-unit developments and businesses and events to separate food waste. Community enterprises make really great partners for councils because we share your goals. Give us a 7-year contract and we'll meet your KPIs to divert organics, and we'll also use the opportunity to make progress on a bunch of things that you never expected. Investing in, we deliver the goods. Last year, our members across the country diverted 44,000 tonnes of recycling and organics. Investing in the community sector is really good for Wellington's economy. Our network's been into community wealth building since 1989, when the first zero waste enterprise set up in Kaitaia created much needed jobs from recycling and composting, and they've been doing it ever since. Wastebusters in Wanaka puts $3.2 million in wages back into their local economy every single year. That was a big deal in the COVID times when the tourists stopped coming. And other councils are already partnering with community. We've been working with Auckland Council since 2015 to grow a community-led resource recovery network across the city. There's 13 community-led sites running now, and revenue's a mix of council funding and earned income from commercial activities. Auckland Council empowered a social enterprise called Localise to work as a broker to get the next 5 sites up and running. Everyone in the city needs a boost. Doing something real will give us all confidence that we can find solutions and we can make progress. We want to work with you to make that happen. Wellington's environment sector, that's Zealandia, Predator Free, Feel Good, Events Recyclers, Kibosh, Composting Network, Te Aroha Zero Waste, and all of the other businesses and organisations and communities that are working so hard to reduce waste and emissions across the city and look after our place, underpin the brand and reputation that our city wants to promote to the world and helps residents feel good about being here and living here, and the businesses. we want you to back us. And since Naredan's given us an extra little bit of time, I'm going to ask how many of you have read this book, How Big Things Get Done? Anyone? Yeah, Andrew's nodding. Yeah, so a few. What I'm going to do is, I had this copy in my bag. I'm going to leave it here for you. It's an amazing book which really explores, so far 16,000 different big projects around the world. What makes them succeed? What makes them fail? Why do they work? Why don't they work? And what I'm going to, I've folded over a few corners in here for you. And so one that I really want you to have a look at is chapter 9, which is all about what's your Lego? How can you use decentralized, small-scale building blocks to create systems across the city in a way that doesn't expose you to the risks that, the one big thing projects do. So I'm going to leave it here and pass it around. I definitely recommend you read it or listen to it on your audiobook. I know you guys are all busy. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sue, and that was really good, and we accept the offer as well. Okay, good submission, thank you. And next we have Hannah Bulmhat, West Free Wellington, and you have 5 minutes as well. If you want any question, make sure to leave some time aside.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Happy birthday to Mayor Little. And also, aptly, happy International Compost Awareness Week. I'm representing Waste Free Welly on the organics processing agenda item. We've shared written notes with you that provide more details and case study examples than could be covered in 5 minutes. Waste Free Welly is a collective of organisations and residents who promote and work towards waste minimisation in Pōneke. Collectively, our members hold significant practical and policy expertise across various waste issues. Since forming in 2021, preventing food loss and waste and diverting organic waste from landfill in the capital has been a key plank of our advocacy. Some of our members represent communities close to the southern landfill who have repeatedly been promised over many years that serious waste minimisation efforts are coming, with organic waste diversion being a key promised action. Other members are already operating services and infrastructure to prevent food loss and waste or collect and process organic waste like Kaibosh and KaiCycle. These members have been waiting for the opportunity to work with Council to design and implement an organic waste system. As a collective that holds both expertise and enthusiasm on this topic, we are frustrated by being consistently excluded from Council's organic waste planning and by Council's continual delay in acting on organic waste. We are alarmed by the report's recommendation that Council not proceed with any organics processing and instead retain the status quo of landfilling organic waste. This renders most of Council's zero waste strategy targets unachievable, pulls the rug out from under its WMMP action plan, and undermines public perception of Council's commitment to Te Atakura and mitigating climate change. Having said this, we do recognise that the organics processing model originally proposed, a big curbside system with single large processor, is not viable in the current context. However, this particular model reflects what central government at that time was more or less requiring councils to adopt. The central government context has now changed, and councils no longer have to push ahead with a one-size-fits-all approach and are free to try other things. Trying other things is so much better than doing nothing. Waste Free Welly wants the council to keep actively working to reduce organic waste to landfill, but to do so via an alternative solution. We want this alternative to be taken seriously and properly explored. We are not satisfied with the report's framing and dismissal of option 4 that relates to alternative solutions. The examples provided are superficial, inadequately described, and presented as straw men rather than real and meaningful opportunities that are in fact already happening in the city. Based on our own research and existing activities, we propose a pragmatic alternative whereby WCC actively supports a diverse and distributed organic waste management system that learns from successful overseas examples and builds on the services, expertise and infrastructure that already exists in the city. A diverse system is one that onboards various methods and delivery partners for receiving organic waste from residents and businesses, including Door-to-door collection, networks of drop-off points to which residents bring their food scraps, on-site processing systems like service compost boxes or worm farms at drop-off sites, MUDs, commercial and institutional settings or community gardens and parks, and hybrid commercial residential combos of some of these systems in public places where people congregate, like fruit and veg markets, schools and universities. A distributed system focuses on smaller scale, lower tech processing infrastructure spread across the city and suburbs, like a network of service compost box managed by skilled labour, complemented by some medium-sized composters. In the written notes, we outline some benefits for Wellington of a diverse distributed system compared to a one-size-fits-all model, and we provide real-world examples from overseas cities. In Wellington, several commercial, non-profit and council-run operations are already implementing these alternative solutions and laying the foundation for a diverse distributed system. Rather than starting from scratch, council can hit the ground running by working with these initiatives to expand their current efforts. Yay! Wellington's existing processing infrastructure includes Capital Compost and a distributed network of 48 compost boxes or tumblers that are part of a service network or program. This distributed network is currently processing 50 tonnes per annum, but its capacity is closer to 100. 3 organisations provide door-to-door food scrap collections, 2 collect exclusively from commercial customers, including locally owned, long-standing company Organic Waste Management, while KaiCycle offers door-to-door collection via e-bike to businesses and households. KaiCycle also manages a network of food scrap drop-off sites. So far it has 4. Beyond KaiCycle's network, other sites offer food scrap drop-offs, including Innermost Gardens in Mount Vic that received and processed 11 tonnes of residential food scraps just last year. WCC's Community Compost Hubs program also supports community food scrap drop-off points and on-site processing for MUDs and institutions. So far, 5 sites, including a school, university, 2 community gardens and a MUD, have set up service compost infrastructure to process food waste generated on-site or received from residents or the site's community. This model could be replicated to many more sites. To finish up, our ask to Council is that you work directly with existing providers of organic waste collection services and infrastructure, including commercial, non-profit and council-run operations, to explore an alternative solution to diverting organic waste from landfill that focuses on supporting a diverse and distributed system and builds on the services, expertise and infrastructure that already exist here. Kia ora.
Brilliant, and thank you. That was a good submission. Really appreciate, and you finished on time as well. And next we have Ali Forrest from Ofiro Bay Residents Association. Welcome, Ali. You have 5 minutes as well.
Thanks. Thank you, councillors, for allowing me to speak on behalf of OBRA, Ofiro Bay Residents Association. So our community is affected by all waste issues because we have the southern landfill in our midst. However, what Ofiro Bay wants aligns with what all Wellingtonians have said in the LTP they want, and what's in the WMMP of 2023 and the Zero Waste Strategy. The paper being discussed by this committee is proposing removing from the LTP something that a significant majority of Wellingtonians support. The paper's point 100 uses the LTP's rather misleading statements in its points 31 and 32, you can see in attachment 2 to the paper, to claim that the option of the status quo, i.e. no organics processing or collection, was consulted on during the LTP process and had a reasonably high level of support. But that's not the case. In fact, the vast majority of both submissions and the survey show that support for organics collections and processing of some kind, just not necessarily the method chosen. And we agree that the method chosen may not be the right one, as Hannah has explained. So deciding not to divert organics would not just be a matter of councillors voting on the Section 80 of the LGA in inconsistency with plan. It would be also ignoring the wishes of your constituents. Organics diversion is not a nice to have, it's not frivolous and it's not radical. It's a basic requirement for a modern city to minimise waste and cut emissions. We're not discussing a new swimming pool or a playground. Waste management is a core service to the city, and removal of organics is a key part of this, reducing emissions, reducing the amount of rubbish collected and dumped, and using a valuable resource. not collecting and processing organics is not just a matter of saving money to go with business as usual. It will not be business as usual. Time doesn't stand still. Things are changing. Landfills are filling up. Standards are rising. Costs are changing. Governments are changing. Infrastructure is degrading. Populations are rising, and legislation on emissions will tighten. There have already been years of delay. There are knock-on effects in putting our heads in the sand over and over again. You kick this down the road and the next council and the next set of ratepayers will get lumbered with it. Short-term thinking will lead to panicked reactions such as what happens when the next government gets in and expects Wellington to have been working up to the emissions targets suddenly due tomorrow. And if we walk back on the WMMP and zero waste strategy and circular economy, we're in danger of regressing to the view that landfills are the answer to waste. Wellington City moved beyond that several years ago and produced the WMMP and the strategy. And to abandon that is to shame Wellington as the capital city. You need to look at the whole picture. The southern landfill is again being seen as the main solution for waste issues. But the southern landfill has a limited life. If you're not preventing waste, the capacity and the life of the southern landfill gets less and less. Officers spent a lot of time and effort coming up with plans, schedules, estimates for SLEPO, the new landfill extension, based on the amount of waste to be generated under the WMMP, loss of sludge, diversion of green waste and organics, recycling improvements, etc. And this work is now being thrown out of the window, and new cobbled-together estimates give the landfill 14 rather than 20 years of capacity, which is nothing, because no organics diversion, but also because apparently Spice's landfill is closing, soon to be followed by Silverstream. And the council seems to be accepting that Wellington City needs to take the waste of Porirua Council, which has decided to send their waste over to us to solve their own waste problems. And another related issue that needs to be taken into account, looking at the whole picture, is the usability of the southern landfill, because Metlink has made a decision, like Porirua, not consulting Wellington City at all, that there will be a bus depot in Landfill Road. And the 300 daily bus movements will be added to all the extra landfill traffic from Spices and possibly Silverstream. And Brooklyn will become a huge traffic jam. And Happy Valley and Ohio roads are already potholed. They can't even cope with the current traffic. So this is going to mean more road maintenance or upgrades for our ratepayers to pay on behalf of the region. It looks to us as though by carelessness and default, we may become, in the southern landfill, the regional landfill. And we also wonder, after 14 years, whether council is going to want to start filling up Carey's Gully again. And there are numerous reasons why both these events would be a bad mistake.
Sorry, Ali, to interrupt you, but your time is up. If you can just wrap up now.
Say, so in summary, we do not support option one. The LTP should keep on hold the budget allocated for organics. No action is an extremely bad option. We don't necessarily want the option chosen in the LTP. We support option 4, instruct officers to look for alternative solutions urgently. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. And we also would like to acknowledge your contribution, the Rāpare Residents Association, during floods and the community supporting each other, and especially you, Ali, and the Resident Association team. Next, we have Kate Walmsley and Tanya Austin, individuals to speak to agenda item 2.4. And feel free to sit on the chair or stand, whichever is easy for you.
Thank you. Tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all today. Tanya and I are here to give a snapshot of one of the great local organics projects happening in the city, which is council run. It's the Community Compost Hubs project. So my name is Kate. I'm privileged to have been one of the composting mentors involved since the start.
Kia ora tātou. My name is Tanya. I'm at Newtown School with a composting hub.
So we're both contracted by council in these roles, and we want to share about this project in the context of supporting option 4 on the organics decision to seek to achieve objective by alternative solutions. So the Community Compost Hubs project began in 2023 with a 1-year trial where 5 community compost hubs were set up. What is this? Most of them look like 3 to 4 large composting boxes, and one has about 5 compost tumblers. And the idea was trying to get about 50 households engaged, or the equivalent of that, in each hub. And the idea was exploring best practice community composting in the city, recognising that there can be issues with composting if it's not properly managed, but also recognising that community composting has benefits for education, household climate action, community connection and resilience, regenerative food systems and flourishing community gardens, which add value into our city in many ways. So the winning recipe for this project is funding good infrastructure and wages for a compost manager for each hub, plus support from an experienced compost mentor. And it is amazing how a small amount of paid labour is game-changing in terms of the quality and consistency of composting, which helps avoid odour and pests, etc. Fast forward, and in the last year, approximately 10 tonnes of food scraps were composted across these 5 hubs, but this could be doubled once the current infrastructure is being used at max capacity. We're still ramping up. Since this November just gone, us mentors, that's myself and Liam Prince in the crew, we've been able to support all community composting efforts in the city beyond the 5 council-affiliated hubs. And this has been awesome. We've started working with 16 other community gardens, schools and other groups doing composting or who want to start. There is a lot of enthusiasm out there for composting. People want to do more of it. The missing link is often the resourcing and the know-how. And so a small amount of funding can go a really long way here. And I want to nod to beyond Wellington, around the country, there are so many local composters. There's a network called the Aotearoa Composters Network with over 100 local composters in that network supporting each other, sharing knowledge and innovating. So there's this real movement of like small-scale local composting that can be tapped into to support local organic waste diversion. Real scope to expand food waste scrap diversion through these kind of community compost hubs as one part of an alternative organic solution, a diverse and distributed organic waste management system that Hannah talked about, a system that's relatively low cost, low risk, isn't so exposed to trucking and fuel prices, and is well positioned to support behaviour change and shrinking food waste per capita and promoting resilience. So now I'd like to pass to Tanya.
Thanks, Kate. Good morning, everyone. So I teach at Newtown School. I teach gardening, environmental goodness and beekeeping. And now as part of the Composting Hubs trial, Council funds me to look after our composting hub. So we've been doing this for 18 months and I want to share some examples of how it's really positive at our school. We've had nothing but positive impacts. We have no rats, no rodents have come to our compost. There's no odours. It feeds all of our gardens. We've got about 7 or 8 gardens, a varying supply of fruit trees and native trees that we're planting at the school. The compost is managed daily by our kids, so I have a very cute and enthusiastic group of 7-year-olds who run around to our 7 or 8 different classrooms, pick up their bucket of compost, run over to me gleefully, although they don't really like the staff room smell of coffee, but they bring it over. They love that part of it. They also love the part where we empty the compost bin once it's finished, finding all the worms and the bugs, and it's making it a real. It's common in their lives. It's not something that smells. They think, most people think compost smells. They're learning that it doesn't by being part of this. They learn where we gift it out to. We don't buy anything in anymore because of our composting. What else do we do? We've got 350 students, 50 staff, and they all know that they can bring their compost to us. Our next plan to expand that is to then get some households who are part of the school to bring their compost to us, and a couple of local cafes, so we can start to upscale what we're doing there. What else? I think that's probably the most, everything I have to share today. Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it, and good submission.
Yep.
Next we have Georgie Ferrari from Sustainability Trust to speak to 2.4 redesigning recycling and rubbish collection.
Kia ora koutou. It's lovely to see you all again. Happy birthday, Mayor. I'm from Sustainability Trust. You probably know us, but just to remind you, we're Wellington's largest environmental social enterprise. We employ about 45 people across the city. You may have seen our vans. We do insulation and heating. We have a New Zealand's only not-for-profit electricity company. We run the Curtin Bank. We run an Auspice Feel Good, the reusable serviceware program, among many other things. We've got a turnover about 8.5 million per annum, and we're in partnership with Council to deliver Te Aro Zero Waste, Wellington's only resource recovery hub. So thank you for the opportunity today to talk to the organics collection and processing proposal. I want to focus specifically on the options in front of you and make the case that option 4, continuing to explore pathways forward rather than stopping entirely, deserves much more serious consideration. Because at its heart, I think this is not just a financial decision, it's a strategic one about whether our city chooses to make progress on waste reduction or pause indefinitely. And as the report in front of you notes, these projects are central to achieving our zero waste strategy and reducing our emissions. And we know the scale of the problem. Around 20% of landfill waste is compostable, and curbside rubbish is nearly 60% food and garden waste. So for me, the question isn't whether we need to act on organics, it's whether we act now in some form or later. And the risk of doing nothing is real. Option 1, effectively stopping the program, might feel prudent in the short term, but let's be honest about what it means. It slows progress towards emissions reduction, it delays diversion targets, and it risks losing momentum, capability, and community buy-in. And even the report acknowledges that maintaining the status quo constrains progress towards strategic waste and emission goals. Those are your strategic waste and emission goals, Council, and that comes with consequences. Option 4, continuing to explore the alternatives, keeps the door open. It recognises that while the current large-scale solution may not stack up financially, it doesn't mean that no solution exists. And importantly, it allows us to think more creatively about how we deliver organics diversion, because large centralised systems are not the only model. And this is where I want to highlight something that isn't really reflected in the report. Community organisations already play a meaningful part in organics diversion and could do much more, as you've already heard. And across the motu, environment centres like mine and community hubs host composting systems, support scraps collection, educate households, and partner with councils to reduce waste. Here in Wellington, my organisation is already doing this. We operate Te Aro Zero Waste in partnership with Wellington City Council, where we focus on e-waste reuse and teaching Wellingtonians about the importance of circularity. Over the last 18 months, Te Aro Zero Waste has welcomed over 30,000 service users. Imagine if even half of those people brought their organics waste to drop off at our centre along with their old laptop or unwanted air fryer. You'd be amazed at how many air fryers we get. We're also currently a curbside drop-off, a drop-off site for Kaicycle's organics collection, and we want to be very clear about what that actually involves. It's simply providing a space for their bin so that local people can come with their organics and drop them off there. We sometimes have to help people find the bin if it's their first time, but the bin doesn't smell and it doesn't take up much room and it actually works. And it's a low-cost, low-risk, scalable infrastructure solution. It's already operating in the city and we could do so much more of it. Option 4 gives Council the opportunity to explore distributed drop-off networks, partnerships with community hubs, incremental rollouts, and lower-cost pilots, instead of waiting for a perfect citywide system, because no city has gotten organics collection perfect from the start. But the ones that succeeded have something in common. They all started. And so this isn't about ignoring affordability concerns. It's about recognising that there are smaller, more flexible ways to begin. There are partners ready to help, and there's community appetite to act. Option 4 keeps those possibilities alive. Option 1 closes them off. So my ask is simple. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Don't let the absence of a large-scale solution become the reason to do nothing. And don't overlook the role community organisations can play in helping council deliver outcomes affordably and effectively. Because the real risk here isn't trying something and adjusting. The real risk is losing the opportunity to do something at all. Ngā mihi.
Thank you, Georgie. It's good submission again. And now we have Martin and Liam from KaiCycle to do submission to agenda item 2.4.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi kia koutou. I'm Marty Donoghue. I'm the board chair of KaiCycle, and I'm presenting today with Liam Prince, aka Dr. Compost. It's also Dr. Compost's birthday today as well. He didn't want me to say that, but... So this morning I want to outline what impact KaiCycle has in the community and ask for your support to include KaiCycle in any future plans for organic waste collection. KaiCycle is a proven community-based solution. We're based out by Newtown. We have an urban farm and composting system. We are a climate justice project focused on building a resilient, localised food system. We're grounded in community, focused on education and regenerative huaparakori growing practices. What we do, and we already deliver, is we collect food scraps from households and businesses using low-emission e-bikes. We operate a user pays model that blends drop-off and collection services. We process organics locally at our urban farm into compost. We grow food and return value to the community through donations and local programs. We still want to see curbside organic waste collection across the city. And our system demonstrates a working circular system where waste becomes high quality compost, which then becomes food, and all through that system we involve the community.
Cool. So just to give you a sense of what we are achieving with our organic waste enterprise today, so we have close to 250 customers who we provide food scraps collection service to. Around half of those are businesses and organisations in the CBD who we collect from directly with our e-bike and trailer service, and we run that 2 days a week with 2 bikes and trailers. The other 120 odd customers are households and apartment dwellers who primarily use one of those 4 drop-off hubs, which are in the CBD, Sustainability Trust, Ara Valley, Newtown and Berhampore. On average, we're collecting well over 700 kilos of food scraps per week, which is around 35 tonnes a year through the system, and we're composting those 35 tonnes of food waste along with about 6 or 7 tonnes of arborist mulch at our KaiCycle Urban Farm in Newtown. That enables us to produce 20,000 litres of good quality handcrafted compost. We've donated nearly 7,000 litres of those to community gardens, schools, marae and more. We've sold nearly 5,000 litres and the rest are being used at the urban farm. So that's what we're currently doing, but we have a significant potential and capability to increase that scale. We could increase our collections to 5 days a week, which would mean an additional 50 tonnes a year, but we could also increase the number of bikes and trailers to say 5, which would mean well over 200 tonnes of food scraps per year just from central city and inner suburbs collections. Additionally, we could increase both the number and capacity of our food scraps drop-off hubs, which we have been successfully trialling collecting in an electric cargo van. A fully loaded e-van could be diverting approximately 50 tonnes per year per run, and these could happen multiple times a week or even multiple times a day. But to enable this growth, we would need to expand our compost processing capacity. So we have a little room to expand our Newtown site, but what we really need are additional sites. And preferably they would be closer to the CBD. But we're not talking large or expensive sites, 50 to 100 metres squared that you can set up for less than 30K. And one area of support from Wellington City Council, which would be extremely useful to an enterprise like ours, is to make small, underutilised pockets of council-owned land available for composting. And this would cost council next to nothing.
So what we're suggesting, what we can do is by scaling, we can provide a cost-effective approach based on existing infrastructure rather than large capital expenditure. But we acknowledge that we are a niche part to the problem. We're not going to solve the problem overall. We're focused on the CBD, but can provide a real community-based solution. Ngā mihi.
Kia ora. Thank you so much, and Dr. Aka Composting, and happy birthday to you too. Next we have Steve Ormond from Garage Project. I think Steve is online. Steve, you have 5 minutes if you want to leave question time as well. The floor is yours.
Great, thank you. Kia ora koutou. Should be some slides popping up. Thank you. I'm Stephen Armand from Garage Projects Brewery. We recently did a organics diversion project for our yeast and hops, and I think there's some relevant learnings that we could take from that for today. Could we skip to the next slide, please? So if you don't know, we're a craft beer brewery based on Arrow Street since 2011. We produce two main types of organic waste. We produce quite a lot of malt, 450 tonnes a year, and we produce about 60 tonnes of yeast and hop sludge. Where does this go? So our malted grain goes to farmers from the Rāpare. We get to get rid of it for free, and they get to take it for free, and they use it for their livestock. Yeast and hop sludge is more problematic. So we have to isolate it from our wastewater system. We can't easily feed it to livestock because it causes issues with the digestion. Pre-2025, we separated this into a basic system, but it had to go to landfill. It couldn't be composted because there was no transport system to go between our site and the compost, which was clean, basically. Around 18 months ago, we developed a system with council waste minimisation funding, so thank you for that, partnering with our waste contractor EnviroNZ to divert this from landfill. The solution we came up with was this circular solution where which reduces our emissions and the city's emissions. It frees up landfill space. It turns waste into a resource. It's better solution than landfilling it, and it's slightly cheaper to operate, but it did need the seed funding initially from the council to get this up and running, with some contribution from us and our waste contractor, and we cover all the operating costs. It basically works like we collect all the material into a tank. The custom bin is delivered to us, and we transfer it into the bin, and then it goes to the capital compost to be turned into compost. So it's a pretty simple system. But the most important part is this part. So it's quite easy for us to collect the material. The capital compost facility already existed. It was just getting it there, which was a problem. There was no such service. We wondered, why isn't there a big truck that could come and take it away? Well, there isn't one. And we had to come up with this solution, which was a tipping truck, effectively, which has a lid on it, so it doesn't fall out the top. And even though this might seem a bit irrelevant to household collections, I think there was some really good learnings from this which we could apply. So we came up with a solution locally through collaboration with council funding, our needs and design, troubleshooting with our waste contractor, working out what capital compost needed. We all worked together, local people working out a solution for us and for Wellington, for our environment. It's one of the surprising learnings from it is it's really resilient. So recently the roads in South Wairarapa were washed out in the storm. Our farmers couldn't get in to collect grain. We can only hold so much grain on our site, and then we have to stop making beer. So we used the yeast bin to divert grain to composting, and we could continue production seamlessly. So these simple, I think, local solutions that are simple and probably hybrid, where you can pivot, quite more resilient to weather events, truck breakdowns, sickness, fuel prices going up. Simple approach using low tech makes it lower risk as well. And now it's established, it can be expanded so more people can get on board. We use the bin. If new solutions come on board, we can then direct it from capital compost, which is a good solution, and then we can go to other or a mix of solutions as well. So these would be my recommendations for when we're working out a system. Tap into local knowledge. There's lots of people doing community compost, business composting, business collections, bigger organizations. There's a lot of knowledge there to tap into already. I think Georgie said, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. I second that. Just need to get started, but starting small means you can just keep changing and tweaking it, which is exactly what we did, and refined it over time. And then you can scale it up and out, and keeping it local makes it more resilient. And then an important point that I didn't add to this is that if I've heard over the years some proposals to move it outside the region, and that would obviously increase the cost for us to deal with this. And then as a business that adds cost to us, and then we potentially other people looking at doing solutions like this, it would make those potentially less viable to do if we have to transport over longer distances.
Steve, I hope you're finishing, or otherwise I will give you last word to say.
I've finished.
Oh,
If there's any time for a question.
That's brilliant. Thank you. And I think that brings us to conclusion on public submission today. And I found it very helpful personally. I'm sure you all agree with me. And thanks to you all for giving your time. And I'm sure we will consider in going forward and your submissions. Councillors, now we will go to I will reorder the agenda item because we received one of the agenda item last minute, a bit late. So the decision register will be the last agenda item on the agenda. With that, just now we now move to item 2.1, Council submission on the Alcohol and Regulation Amendment Bill. This is about getting the balance, enabling a strong hospitality while keeping regulations fair and effective. And I will take the submission read. And if you have any questions, officers are here to answer your question. And there is a substantive amendment that will be moving at the part of the paper as well. If you have any question, officers are here. Councillor Young.
Thanks for forgetting my name.
No.
So just a query about the hairdressers, the supply of alcohol in the hairdressers. So they won't be licensed. I mean, they won't be charging. It'll be incorporated in their overheads, or will they be running it like a bar?
That's right. They won't be licensed, but they won't be able to charge either.
So that will cut down the risk of people getting, eating into their profits by drinking too much, right? Right.
Any other question? Puiwi Liz Kelly.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to confirm that 2.2 is us saying that, well, can you tell me what is it that we're saying?
So this is around the ability, at the moment, the situation is that you can raise objections and you can be anywhere in the country. You can live in Taupo and make an objection in Nelson if you like. And so that's one of the things that they're changing. So in essence, what they're doing is they're setting in place hard limits. So the objections are you have to live within the territorial authority or you have to live within 1K of the licence. So that's what they're introducing. In terms of what the amendment is, at the moment, the submission that we've written as a draft for your consideration does not support that. And in essence, the submission is, my understanding around the amendment is to make it a slightly more neutral.
Can I ask a further question? So my understanding when I read the papers was that we didn't support the 1 kilometre reference, but now what this is proposing is that we're not really that bothered. Am I correct in what that's saying?
In essence, if you want to understand the amendment, then you have to ask the mover in terms of what the intent behind it is. In terms of officers' position in this, we're okay with having limits put in place. At the moment, there's no limit, so we do support some level of limits being introduced. What is unique about Wellington is that we're a destination, so we have people coming into the city from outside of the city or outside of the district, if you like. And so they can be an affected party when a licence are renewed, for instance. And as a consequence, if we believe that if they can demonstrate that they have an interest beyond the ordinary citizen, that they should be in a position to be able to be part of any discussions around licensing.
Thank you.
Any more questions, councillors? Cool. Thank you, officers. Now I call on Councillor Compton to move the paper with the substantive, and Councillor Matua is seconding the paper. Do you want to?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. So thank you for the opportunity to move today's paper, and I'd like to thank officers for their work that they've done on the paper to date. Council has made 3 changes to the paper. So officers recommended not supporting the supply of alcohol at hairdressers due to enforcement concerns. Councillors are recommending essentially having no preference on that. Officers also recommended not supporting the changes to limit those who can object being within 1 kilometre or the same territorial authority. And councillors are recommending to having no preference. The intent behind the legislation change was essentially to stop those outside of the region from, objecting to reasonable attempts. Some of us councillors had concerns that essentially people who are victims of harm wouldn't be able to object. So the paper's changed to essentially no preference. Now there's been a further change to the paper, essentially giving those people outside of the 1 kilometre area an ability to have an objection. So thank you for letting me move the paper, and
Councillor Matua, do you want to speak to?
Thank you, Councillor Compton. And I guess just to note that the hairdresser one is highlighted in questions by Councillor Young as a sometime frequenter of both bars and hairdressing salons. I recognise the difference between those 2 venues, and I think just that we've come to the neutral position, sort of recognising that some of us might, I personally am an enthusiastic supporter of being able to be having a glass of wine when I say have a Friday afternoon hair appointment, but I understand that some councillors and committee members may have different views. So just to be neutral on that, and I think it's a good position to come to. It's obviously not a huge issue for council either way, and I just want to thank the team for the work on the submission and the work on the amendments.
Thank you, councillors. Is there any Councillor Calvert?
Yeah, I just want to sort of talk a little bit to 2.2, and this was really just making sure that we can see clarity that if you live beyond 1 kilometre of where the proposed establishment may well be, that you can still object. And I'll give you a real example. A few years ago, there was a bottle store application to go into the Kandala village. And the village is used by not just the suburb, but also the neighbouring suburbs. And it was right next to a childcare centre. It was right next to our public town hall. It was right next to the post office that we had at that time, and across the road to the library. So very much a public space. And people who lived in Kandala, but were more than 1 kilometre from that actual address, but would visit there regularly, weekly, daily, weren't able to put in an objection. So I just want to make it very clear, and we seek the that people that I know are still within the territorial authority or the district, that they are able to object, especially when they are using that area consistently. So that's really what was driving this change. Thank you.
Puis Liz Kelly.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. 2.1, I don't really have any objection to people drinking in hairdressers. In a hairdresser salon, I don't drink. But I do see that, particularly at Christmas time or when there's a celebration, that sometimes it's quite nice, particularly for regulars who frequent a certain, regular salon, that's nice. But I see that position as, neutral, but I don't really have anything against people having a glass, and I don't think that it would be abused because the salon is there to make money and they're not going to give away free booze. So I don't think it's a problem. But I do have concerns about the 1 kilometre licensed premises and being able to object. And it's no surprise to you that I've been strongly active in actively opposing liquor licences, particularly in vulnerable areas because of the damage that liquor does in those communities. So I like the way the bill is written now, the standards are right now, and I think that it keeps it safe and it gives the ability to be able to have your say and to make submissions. And the thing about stopping people from outside the area, for community organisations, they need that ability from organisations that are outside, particularly lawyers who help community organisations to put in a submission. So I wouldn't be keen on supporting something that was going to stop that happening. But I also accept that in Wellington, particularly in our CBD, that we need our what do you call them? We need the pubs and the bars, hospitality, that's the word, thank you. We need the hospitality here. That's what keeps our economy going. So I think that we have enough things in place where checks and balances in place where we can balance out where it is good to have a liquor licence and where it is dangerous or is going to do harm. So I'm saying that I like what's already there. I realise that this is just a submission that we are putting in, and that I also have the opportunity to put in a submission myself, which I've done many times to Parliament, particularly around alcohol. But I just don't want it to be seen that we are not taking alcohol and the negative effects that alcohol does have in our community, that we're not thinking about that as well. So I don't want to stop the fun that everybody has, but we have to have a balance, and I just think that that's a bit weak, that we're too neutral. So I'm not going to support 2 or 3.
Cool. And any opposing views? Or okay, Councillor McNulty.
So I wasn't sure if I was opposing views, but I was speaking list. So I just wanted to speak because Station Kitchen will forever be burned into my mind. The opposition of one self-appointed Residents Association group resulted in months of delay for a hospitality operator to set up a new business in Kandala in a recessionary climate. I am still mad that was environment and those circumstances were allowed to happen on the frivolous objections that children will somehow be exposed to alcohol. But the 3-year-olds at the daycare across the road are going to be crossing the road to buy craft beer growlers because, the 3-year-olds are swimming in cash and definitely the clientele of Station Kitchen. So I like what the government have done in the bill and I have a lot of enthusiastic support. So today's submission amendments I'm actually not stoked about, because I would love to have this council formally and enthusiastically supporting the preference of supply of alcohol and the limiting the restrictive rights. However, I'm taking a big bite in consensus today and understanding that what's there is what meets the views of everyone around the table, and that there are strong views. So whilst I'd love us to be going harder, because I've seen how alcohol laws have been weaponised to stop good operators and good businesses from operating in high income suburbs like Kandala, in Kandala, not where there is high levels of social deprivation. I've seen it firsthand. It's crap, but I will take the neutral view of the table today. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And Mayor, do you want to have a say?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to acknowledge Pauiwi Kelly's points, and she is right. Alcohol is the source of a lot of harm, health harm especially, and how it is made available in communities is it's important that we have effective regulation. What I'm encouraged about with the amendments made here, when you take 2.2 and 2.3 together, I think it does achieve a balance, which is that you've got the 1 kilometre limit, but actually then you've got those who, because of their presence in or attendance at a particular or in proximity to a particular site that might be seeking a licence, they have an interest in what happens there. And likewise, community organisations who have a connection with that community would also be able to make their submissions if there's a concern about the potential for harm to the community. So I think taking those two sub-paragraphs together, it achieves the balance that I think that Pauiwi Kelly was talking about.
Thank you. Now, right of reply.
Thank you, Chair. All I would ask is that we take a division on the vote, please, and that we take each amendment separately. Thank you.
No, thank you. Now I put the motion which has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please press 1. Those against, press 2. And then now we're going to take 2 and 2.1. Carried. And now 2.2. Also carried. 2.3. I declare carried. And can you just stay on the speaker and on the mic?
Sorry, my vote was read.
Yep, recorded. Now I put all together.
Green.
Remaining. I declare the was carried. Now we go for morning tea, and let's get back at 10:53. back, and thank you, Councillor Young. The cake was very yummy, and you told me it's 8 eggs in that cake. I think I got 3 of them already. So no, that was not the intention. Cool. Thank you to you all. Now we go to agenda item 2.2, engagement on heritage listing. And this is paper bringing back what we have asked previously, directing officers to bring feedback from owners and stakeholders on the impact of heritage protection. It highlights a clear tension, which is strong support for heritage as part of Wellington's identity, alongside real concern about cost, constraint, and property rights. Our role today is just to receive the findings and to also give a bit of advocacy space with the substantive amendment included. I'll invite officers now, but I'll take the paper as read. And if you have any questions, now's the time for you. Thank you. Any questions to officers? No questions. Adam, do you think anything that is not in the paper that you wish to say?
No.
Thank you. And now I just ask for someone to move the paper. Do I have the mover? And Councillor McNulty, and you want to speak to?
Cool. Kia ora, everyone. Look, today is the latest step on a slow process to allow a degree of common sense within our planning system on heritage regulations. Firstly, I want to thank officers for the survey and the analysis in providing a really good piece of policy work, which I do hope will give heritage advocates, some were quite in opposition to it being done in the first place, an appreciation of its validity, and actually provide assurance that even if you had a voluntary heritage regime, you would see most owners continue to retain their heritage status. Great outcome. What I've put in front of councillors today, I've been very careful not to take a position on the validity or otherwise of those 61 single-owner property and 38 multi-owner properties where owners have indicated a preference for having their heritage listing removed. It's not my job. I'm not qualified to make that call. What I've asked, what the paper asks, is for your approval, for the Mayor and I, to advocate for those owners to have a fair process to contest their designation. And I could use my own words about why, but I want to just actually read an email from someone that the Motu-Kaurangi councillors will be well acquainted with. I'm writing respectfully to request your support in removing the heritage designation from my property, of which I'm the current owner. Approximately 15 years ago, we were approached by the Historic Places Trust regarding the potential listing. At that time, we chose not to pursue this option. I was not aware a council could proceed with a designation without my consent. We were contacted again in 2022. While I did receive correspondence in that time, I was my mother's primary caregiver, and she sadly passed away in 2023. Due to these circumstances, I was not in a position to respond and unaware that any decision could be made without my input. A recent building report has identified serious concerns regarding the property's structural integrity and its likely performance in a seismic event. There are multiple cracks evident in both the external and internal walls. Whilst the dwelling does not have an official earthquake rating, the presence of unreinforced walls assess it would likely fall below 34% of the NBS. I recently obtained a LIM report and was surprised to discover the property has been designated as a heritage building. I acknowledge the personal significance of the home having been in my family 56 years. I do not believe it holds architectural or heritage value of broader public significance. I'll skip a little bit just for the brevity of this debate. As a result of these factors, feedback from my real estate agent confirms that prospective purchasers are assessing the property based on land value alone. The dwelling itself is not considered a viable renovation prospect, particularly given the challenges associated with ensuring a structurally compromised concrete buildings. Despite these challenges, I had secured a purchaser and conditional agreement was in place. However, the heritage classification has introduced significant uncertainty and caused the purchaser to reconsider proceeding, placing me at considerable financial disadvantage. And I've spoken to that lady as well, and I'll just give you some more of her. That's the professional version, but I'll give you the actual quotes. It's in such a state, cracks everywhere. It is not fit to rent or for anyone to habitat. The last purchaser went to a heritage architect and withdrew their offer because of the economics of any cost of restoration. So she's trapped in a property, paying rates and other outgoings because Section 4 of the Resource Management Act says that her house's heritage listing is a matter of, quote, national significance. That owner has experienced something manifestly unjust. And this is where my view of the world sharply diverges with the likes of some of the heritage advocates. There should be some legal leeway to appeal that injustice. That is natural. That is fair. And what I have to done now, I have accommodated the wording of some of those advocates into this amendment because I am completely comfortable with things that are pragmatic, where we can provide support within the confines of the RMA for heritage owners. That's what Clause 5 is. I'd like to see the heritage advocates apply a similar lens of pragmatism over their advocacy. At the end of the day, the decisions on whether buildings are heritage or not were made by people at a point in time. People can make mistakes. We're infallible. Values and circumstances can change, and the law should provide mechanisms to appeal the judgments, and that's what the paper in front of you asks for the Mayor and I to advocate to do today. Thank you.
Councillor Young, as someone who worked on the substantive amendment, do you want to second the paper? Do you want to speak to it?
Well, for a little while, hold my peace. So interesting, actually, yesterday I had two people approach me, how could they get their houses heritage listed? So it just shows you that sometimes all publicity is good publicity or something. Anyway, most of you know that I really love our city's history and heritage, but I'm also a pragmatist, and it is impossible or hard to justify protecting buildings that no longer have an economic purpose. And I'm thinking of those the Miramar storage tanks, or with this gas they had in them, the disused earthquake-prone churches, and the Hewitt former nurses' home. So I fully support removing their heritage listing. But my issue with this list is that we have no idea about the owner's issues. Do they just want to make some minor alterations, double glazing, reinstating the original veranda, or are they working towards demolition? We just don't know. These are some of the buildings that on the list that really appall me. Catherine Mansfield's home, Chesney Wold, 372 Karori Road. Yes, it has been quite a lot altered over the years, but it is, as Ms. Wong said, one that she mentions most in her short stories. 186 Oriental Parade. It is one of the two. There were two bookends for the Seven Sisters. These are the Joshua Charlesworth houses. You'll all recognise them in that sweep around Oriental Bay. One was demolished years ago for apartments. The other one is remaining. It would be a real tragedy to lose the second bookend for those very significant and much loved and photographed houses. So those of you who read the paper yesterday will have heard my sort of fixation about Mother Obeah's creche, because it's already been moved once. It was moved 15 metres for the Aris Tunnel. But we don't know, the owners, NZTA, whether they want to just move it shunted another 10 metres, or whether they want to demolish it. We have absolutely no idea. So this was the first creche in New Zealand dedicated to working class and single mothers. Built for Suzanne Obeah and the Catholic religious order she founded, the Home of Compassion, who now run, amongst other things, the Soup Kitchen in Tory Street. So we don't know what they're going to do with it, but at the same time, in parallel, we know, well, certainly I know, that the Catholic Church in New Zealand is proceeding with an application to make Mother Obeah a saint. Now, this is Catholic mumbo-jumbo, I realise, but it's something with which I am very familiar. So Australia has one Catholic saint, and she is, Mary McKillop, is quite a tourist attraction. I regard, pilgrims are the oldest form of tourism. So irrespective of what you think about the mumbo-jumbo, the thing is, it would be a tourist attraction. So it would be a tragedy if anything was done to that building. I am particularly concerned about retaining the integrity of two of our most significant inner city streets, Cuba Street and Courtenay Place. Courtenay Place is possibly about to be renovated as part of the Courtenay Precinct project, and the last thing we want is someone to muck up with the buildings. But we don't know. Maybe they just want to put in decent windows. Maybe they want to put in a 12-storey building. We don't know. And there are some other significant buildings. The Disabled Servicemen's Training Centre, a hell of a title. It's the Life Church now, a beautiful, beautiful building in Hania Street, designed by Anscombe, who was one of our leading architects a long time ago. And then the Elliott House in Kent Terrace, which has been mucked around by an owner who ignored the town planning rules in Wellington, but the house is still basically, it's a beautiful house. The problem with this list is it is a blunt tool. The council relies on experts to identify buildings of significance, significant for myriad reasons, but now the owners, most of whom should have been aware of the heritage listing and its implications, and now they say, oh, we just want to scrap it. So what's the point of asking experts for their opinions? I am grateful to the Deputy Mayor for incorporating my suggestions into the substantive. Some councillors have told me they have absolutely no interest in heritage, despite our role as guardians of the city. So I'd like to quote from a former mayor. This could be historic. Justin Lester. 8 years ago, when he was the mayor, council marked 125 years of women's suffrage with heritage plaques, for three notable Wellington women, one of whom was Suzanne Aubert, and the plaque is in the ground. The unveiling of that one had the largest attendance of any of the three unveilings. Mayor Lester said, and I quote, "Wellington is a city that takes great pride in its heritage, and the council is a strong supporter of retaining and promoting this heritage for our people and visitors. Wellington's buildings are more than just concrete and steel, probably and wood, but part of our city's living history and our people." So anyway, I support this, and thank you again to the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Young. And I actually think we all go and read a book about Mother Susan Albert. It's really fascinating. And I was introduced to by Uncle Colin, who was ex-Radio New Zealand historian who lived in Island Bay. And he took me around to, was it the church? I think it's around in Island Bay, the Home of Compassion. It's fascinating. And we have a lot of people that we need to acknowledge more than the building itself. But I think it's, I hear you, what you're saying, Councillor Young. Any debates, councillors? Councillor Covert.
Thank you, and I'll be supporting this. It's a shame we didn't actually have this in place 5 or 6 years ago when we were having to deal with our city library, our central library, because somebody had slapped a Heritage One listing on it, a 30-year-old building, that most people only wanted to protect the Nico palms. We were essentially left with no option but to re-strengthen the existing building, which cost us a couple of $100 million. At the time, we were presented with an option that we just rebuilt it. It would be roughly half that cost. But we personally, at that time, I voted to strengthen it because I did not want to see a building in our civic square doing nothing for 10 years while we went through endless appeals like Gordon Wilson Flats, and it would just become more of an eyesore in our civic square. So I do support this because we, the council, and our ratepayers have borne the brunt of what used to be the case where something was slapped with a heritage listing, and we had little avenue to appeal that. So I will be supporting this. Thank you.
I don't see any other hand, so now we move right of reply. No, now I put the motion that has been moved and seconded. If you are in favor, please 1. Against, please 2. I declare the motion carried. Now we move to agenda item 2.3. Yeah, we moved that one around, so we're going to redesigning, recycling and rubbish collection and organic processing. I know this one is a bit spicy discussion coming, and officers are around to answer any question. As you all know, this paper is just sitting between strategy and reality, and I think some of the amendments might be arguing against both the strategy and reality, and we are looking forward to listen to both sides and in respectful ways. I take the paper as read. If you have any questions, I will give an opportunity, but before that, if you want to say a few words, Jenny, I'll just pass it to you.
never shy away from saying a few words. Kia ora koutou. We will take the paper as read, and I want to thank all the councillors for all your questions over the last few days. There's been a lot of inquiry and a lot of genuine curiosity, and we're grateful for that, and I hope we've been able to answer your questions, so thank you. Just a few comments to open, and then I'll hand back to you, Chair. So you've got a decision before you today about whether or not to proceed with a new initiative to divert and process organic material, alongside proceeding with your proposed changes to your rubbish and recycling collection services at the same time. This decision is really sitting at the intersection of your environmental ambitions, our financial reality, and our responsibility to our community. The conversation and decision has its most recent roots in your specific instruction to us last year to pursue the tender process for the organics processing solution, with specific timing and financial parameters that you gave us, and a request to report back to you if we couldn't meet those parameters within the tender process. At its core, it's a decision in front of you about the specific proposals for organics processing and changes to the collection services in our current circumstances. They're not standalone choices, they're interdependent. To achieve the scale of waste diversion and environmental benefit we're aiming to achieve under the zero waste strategy, both elements really need to work together. The benefits are really well understood. Diverting organic waste from landfill reduces emissions. It supports our circular economy goals, and it extends the life clearly of our landfill assets. It's also clearly an effective lever to reduce organic waste going to landfill. But the context in which you're making this decision today has changed materially over the last few months. We are now facing a tighter financial environment, changed central government requirements, increased affordability pressures for households. Updated procurement and financial modelling tells us that within the parameters you set for us last year, there's currently no viable organics processing solution within those limits. Costs are higher than anticipated, and the waste business unit financial model, which we've taken you through a few weeks ago, is not in a position to absorb or sustain those pressures without exacerbating the deficit that we're running into. So there's some real trade-offs for you. The officer advice is that progressing now would move us towards our environmental goals, absolutely, but would do so with higher costs, earlier operating deficits, and increased charges to households. Choosing not to proceed, on the other hand, means delaying important progress on waste diversion and emissions reduction. Choosing not to proceed at this time means delaying that important progress in order to enable us to stabilise our financial position so that we can act with confidence when we can. It's a decision about timing, risk and balance on the solutions that you've asked us to pursue. We've tried to give you the most balanced advice in our paper for you to consider and to make your decisions. Interestingly, however, it's also now generating a conversation about what else can be done. And we look forward to your direction on that.
Thank you. And we have a question from Pui Liz Kelly.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. And through you, can you confirm to me, we had a presentation from Zero Waste Aotearoa Sue Coates, who spoke about a 9 million council fund that we have that's tagged for this. Could you expand on that, please, and just clarify what she was talking about?
Absolutely, Pauiwi. So that is called a range of different names. I call it the Waste Minimisation Levy Fund is one way, and that is money we get from MFE. So when we collect gate fees, part of that money, about $70 per tonne, goes to MFE, and then they share about 50% of that money back with councils. So that money must be used by law for waste minimisation activity in accordance with our waste minimisation plan. To date, we have around $9 million sitting in that fund that is available for use for waste minimisation activity.
So is recycling not that?
Recycling is primarily paid for through a gate fee as well. And because that
is recycling not waste minimisation?
Yes, it is. And we do, sorry, I was getting there. At the moment, recycling is not
funded, so we top up the costs required for recycling with that levy fund.
But you can confirm that we have 9 million in that account.
That's the best of my knowledge right now. It's very close to that if it's not that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Just with the recommendation number 2, so what you're suggesting is that we seek the specific project in relation to how it's currently designed in terms of the business case. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Both of the collections and the organics process.
Okay, so thank you. And we've had a lot of feedback about option 4. Is there any reason why officers didn't sort of highlight the I know it was an option, but in terms of your recommendation, whether in compensation for ceasing number 2, we could proceed with option 4 in some respects?
Primarily, it comes back to the objective that we've been trying to reach through these projects, and that is diversion at scale. And so our advice is that these projects remain the most appropriate options to achieve that objective. And while there are other mechanisms to achieve objectives, everything we know so far shows that they're just not at the scale that we need in order to achieve our strategic goals. Do you have a view? Do officers have a view, though, that given the feedback that we received, is almost like, trying to eat the elephant one teaspoon at a time, almost. So that was the feedback was coming in. Try some of these initiatives, build on them, and then look at how you can expand on them, and that minimises risks as well. So, do officers have any views, having listened to those? Public participants on what they were saying? I'm speaking from a non-waste expertise perspective, which is very much that all of them seem, and I understand, to be very good initiatives. They're not going to achieve the scale. That does not mean they are not going to achieve some form of diversion.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, if I might just add to that, that's what I'm referring to in my last comment, that while this is a decision on the specific actions you've asked us to pursue, what it is generating is a conversation about what else and what next. And I think we heard a lot today from the submitters, which we've heard in a collection for the sort of not for the first time, but we would need to go back and think about that. But that's the direction we're looking for you from, in terms of where you want us to go with that kind of those kind of ideas.
Thank you.
Chang. Councillor Chang.
Right, thanks very much. I recall in the last triennium, when we were discussing this, we mentioned a modular system that's actually made in Lower Hutt and exported to Taiwan. Now, at that time, our discussion went around, this is not the type of system that we think is most efficient, and we want a large system rather than a modular one. If we, again, looking at these different options, if we look at, say, option 4, would that actually be a consideration, or would we revisit that? Or do you think that it's feasible for individual organisations, perhaps resident associations or community park operators or community gardens operators, I say, to actually purchase these systems because they can be scalable? And do you think that it would be the recommendation that we would actually look at giving them some sort of assistance or some sort of subsidy if they actually did that themselves? Is that a possibility?
So I can't speak to the specifics of the benefits of those particular systems, but I would say if the direction by council is to go back and consider what other alternatives there are and what can be achieved, then officers will need to look at all options and bring advice back to you on that.
Councillor Compton.
Thank you, Chair. Given the impact of the proposed closure for Spicer landfill, how close are we to re-establishing the joint committee?
Very close. There has been a delay, one due to a storm and the resourcing required to respond to it, and this paper, but it's in my very high on my to-do list next.
Thank you. I've got 2 more questions. Is that all right? Thank you. It says in the paper, in the Q&A, apologies, that contracts for curbside collection have recently been renewed. When specifically were those renewed?
January, very recently.
Thank you.
January this year.
Okay, thank you. One final question. I'm just going to think how I word this. How many years capacity does Southern Landfill have left based on current fill rate modelling on the assumption that consents or capital were made available?
It's a tricky question because we are limited by our consent conditions in the regulatory environment. So if we look at our current landfill, which we refer to as stage 3, we believe we can, with some modification, get through till, I think, September 2029, which is the latest date that we understand if the proposed legislative change by the government on the resource management reform comes through, that would give us the consent to that time, and we believe that we could use it till that time. Okay. SLEPO then, once we don't have a consent, then we can no longer use that area, and we would need to look. The plan would be to use the SLEPO cells, which are already in construction at the moment. Cells 1 and 2, which are the first cabs off the rank. There's 5 cells planned. Cells 1 and 2 are being constructed. They were initially anticipated to give us around 5 years. We're now envisaging just under 4.
Sorry, I'm more meaning the entire capacity of the entire Southern Landfill. I think we're at this bit, and I'm just wondering approximately how many years are left, potentially, of capacity.
So obviously that's going to depend on regulatory approvals. So my advice to councillors is that we believe there are other options for site development. Some of them may give you significantly more time, but there may be significantly higher environmental costs that you'll need to outweigh. So what we are proposing to do is to really start looking carefully at what those options are, making sure that they're feasible and that a good analysis of them is done so that we can bring those options back to you to start making decisions going forward. And that's a priority to move forward with quite quickly as part of our infrastructure planning.
Puri Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My apologies to my colleagues. I would have put this in Q&A, but the information that Sue Coates presented has really bothered me, and I wasn't aware of that, and you've confirmed that we do have this 9 million. So what I'm trying to get my head around, and you've confirmed that this is part of waste minimisation, what I'm trying to get my head around is that in your narrative that you've presented, you talked about the deficit, and this is why your recommendation for us to cease doing this is why it is, because of the deficit. But you've confirmed that we have 9 million there. So I'm just trying to understand this. So
it's a very good point, Pauline.
If you can help me understand why would we're saying on one hand that we're going to finish this, but then we've got this 9 million. Like, I'd like to know, what is the 9 million for? Is it?
So a couple of points there. So first of all, the Waste Minimisation Levy Fund is $9 million, can only be used for waste minimisation activity. There is proposed legislative change to that, which may open that up. Okay, that hasn't come through yet. That's just contextual. We have our other main operating fund, which is the Landfill Surplus Fund. Now, all of the decisions on these projects to date and the business casing has said that where council was putting in capital for these projects, it will come from the Landfill Surplus Fund, right? At the moment, that Landfill Surplus Fund has around $22 million in it. That is the main operating account for the landfill, and that is the one that primarily we are looking at those deficits through, right? So one of the things we are looking at is one, fundamentally important, the Waste Minimisation Levy Fund, it currently doesn't have a form of governance on it, doesn't have oversight by elected members on it. That's going to change. We're going to make sure it has appropriate budgeting and oversight as we go through the next LTP, so that decisions can be made in an appropriate way by elected members on that fund. And two is we are looking as much as we can to move costs into that fund that should be borne by that fund that are purely waste minimisation costs. That requires change in our approach, and we're trying to do that as quickly as we can to make sure that costs are sitting where they should lie properly.
Okay, so you've just raised more questions. So now you're telling me we've got 22 million in one fund and we've got 9 million in another fund, but we're running at a deficit and we need to stop what we're doing.
We're running at, we are not in a deficit now.
That doesn't make sense.
We are projecting a deficit. We are projecting a deficit primarily due to the cost of infrastructure and the cost of paying for depreciation on the sleepo cells once they come online. At the moment, we are not in a deficit at all.
And we have a surplus of 22 million and 9 million.
That's right.
So but 31 million. Is that, 31?
Yes, to be used for different things, but yes. So the point being that the cost of this infrastructure is expensive and that deficit will go down very, very quickly once Sleepo comes online.
Cool. Thank you, officers. I think I don't have anyone now, and we move to the debate. And do I have a mover of the motion? And Mayor Little.
Thank you, Chair. I'll move the motion. Just a couple of things, preliminary matters. First of all, thank you for the very generous birthday wishes and the cake that went with them. Secondly, an apology too, because I know this since the papers were available on Diligent last week, certainly in the last couple of days, been circulating a range of sort of alternative suggestions on this, and I put up some alternatives yesterday. It was very late, hadn't been foreshadowed to people, so I acknowledge that caused some justifiable consternation. So I just express my apology for that. But it's for that reason that I've took the view that I'll move this really pro forma. The point I want to get to is that we're stuck with two inarguable and conflicting sort of propositions at the moment. One is that the existing redesigning rubbish and recycling collections project and the organics processing solution is not financially viable for a range of reasons, many of which are beyond our control, or most of which are beyond our control. But it simply isn't financially viable, and so we can't, in good conscience, proceed with that proposal. The other inarguable proposition is that our landfill capacity is rapidly running out, and we have a commitment. We have an overarching commitment to reduce waste, our waste minimisation program, and we need to be doing everything we can to prosecute that objective, even in the face of now a significant project which is not viable to proceed. So we need to find a way through this that addresses both factual propositions, but gets us to a constructive solution. That means we are making progress on minimising waste, and particularly addressing the gap in the kind of waste minimisation recycling program that we do, which is to deal with organic waste. So it's my expectation and hope, given the various ideas that have been circulating in the last couple of days, that we will come up with something that does mean we can make progress. It was very impressive hearing the public submissions this morning, and what it highlighted for me was the extent of community effort going into this issue. I was aware of Kai-Cycle. That was pretty much the only community effort I was aware of. But when I heard, and the Sustainability Trust, all the others I actually wasn't familiar with. So it's encouraging to see that. It confirms the kind of hunch I have, which is that there is community willingness out there in Wellington to want to do something meaningful in this particular space. And to take the lesson from the book, How Big Things Get Done, is that it's basically an account of amazing ideas that councils around the world had that collapsed because sometimes they were too big, often they were poorly prosecuted. But the general lesson is that actually where you can harness effort and willingness from the community, then actually that's a pretty good starting point. And I would say from the submissions we've had this morning, even Garage Project, and I know there was some allergy to profit-making companies getting some money to develop waste minimisation solutions, but it actually demonstrates what can happen when we target our support in particular ways. So throughout the community, across the community, we have people who do have solutions, who can put them into effect, who can harness the communities that they're part of, and we should be harnessing that and celebrating that and employing that to the best extent we can. So my hope is that through the debate we have on this, we work through possible solutions, that we get to something that means that we remain committed to that important objective of minimising waste, particularly organic waste, even if it's not the big, large-scale solution that was embarked upon in the last year or two, but enables us to continue to make progress and engage the community in the solution. And I think that's an important thing, and it's actually what the council should be doing. So I've moved it, the recommendations are there, but I would hope through this discussion and debate that we'll find something that we can all agree on is constructive and sensible, practical and affordable, and means that we can continue to make progress.
Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconder for the motion, Pew Liz Kelly, just go then. Yeah. Do you want to speak to?
For this?
Yeah. Cool. I think there are a few amendments, and could you put amendment?
Chair, since it's the first time we've seen these amendments, may we have some time to consider them?
Can we just get 5 minutes adjournment and 5 minute adjournment. or any question to the amendments? And are we moving? Wait. Anyway, you might not have to. Is there any question? Councillor Covert.
For number 2, my understanding is officers are already doing this.
Yeah, we did have some questions around number 2. That would be good to understand the objective of what's trying to be sought here, if that would be all right, Councillor Foon. I can give you an overview of what officers are already doing through the WMMP work, which is certainly looking at waste minimisation through key waste streams such as C&D, through commercial, through organics. We're looking at residual options. There is a significant amount of work going on a regional level. What I would appreciate some clarification on is the intent here around the benefits that are being sought through this, that are referred to in this resolution, and what that means.
Okay,
Yes.
in that case, may I give Councillor Foon to respond, because before we get into moving the paper, so we need to clarify some of those things. Who want to speak to that point?
I think the original proposition was a region-wide program for organic waste collection. That's obviously fallen apart, but obviously the need for organic waste collection doesn't disappear from the other cities in the region. So it's about working with those others on what their alternatives look like and seeing what we can collaborate together on.
So are you clear with that now, Officer Bennett?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll take that as the intent and direction of that.
Okay. Any follow-up questions, Councillor Covert?
Yeah, I mean, just given we needed to clarify that, because obviously the wording is not clear enough for officers to take an instruction from. How could we improve the wording to make it clear what's expected?
Yeah, that's good.
So I just wonder if, Councillor Covert, if you, I mean, don't count on me, English is my third language. So if this is not clear enough, where do you think needs to be tightened up? And if you have a suggestion or bit, even if you consider where that can be tightened up.
Yes, so just to show my concern with it, which was referring to the benefits. So in this context, we're talking the benefits of the projects was this large-scale intervention. My question is, are you asking us to try and achieve that again still, or are you asking us to work with other councils to collaborate to understand what can be done, what's realistic, and provide advice on that? Because I took the former from my reading of that clause.
I think I'll take it to the mayor now. And what is the understanding of?
Yeah, it's pretty. It was the latter, in fact. So we can adjust the wording. We can make it direct officers to engage with other councils to, where practicable, develop.
To identify their
okay. What would you?
5 minutes to do a bit of redrafting, but it won't be. The option. The objective is, as I said before, it's about working with the other councils who were previously part of the program, who will be facing the same problem. And if we cancel, as we should do, the existing program we've got, we still have, as a region, have to address the fundamental problem. So, and the advice that we're looking for is what others are doing, and where practicable and possible, what is it that we can do together?
Right.
So one, we can commit to absolutely achieving that and bringing that back to you. And Jenny is just pulling together some wording that we think could work.
I think you've got.
Are you doing that? And are there any other questions to the rest of the amendment? So while we're working through that, and we will get adjournment as well. Any question?
Well, this will be a follow-on for whatever the wording is in number 2, because basically what we're saying here is...
Can we just get adjournment now? Because I wanted to have question on the rest of them, not number 2, but since it seems go back to Councillor Calvert. But any other question from anyone else? Councillor Randall.
Yes, with regard to recommendation 4, which says that we want to pause progressing the redesigning rubbish and recycling collections project. It's my understanding that the business case for that hasn't been approved. And so can officers please confirm that this, agreeing to this amendment, will have a next step of bringing forward a business case for this council to approve?
Let's just say, so the way I read that, it's not referring to the business case. So your question was, would we bring back a business case? No, I wouldn't be proposing to bring back a business case based on that wording 4, which is to stop at this point in time. Yeah. If and when changes, new initiatives or amended initiatives are developed, consideration will be given to whether the current business cases need to be amended or revised in full or in part, so that appropriate evidence can be provided to committee for decisions.
So you're just confirming that the redesigning rubbish and recycling collections project actually hasn't started.
So officers have been, it hasn't significantly progressed, and the main rationale for that is, whilst it was included in the 2024 LTP with an implied approval to progress, it was always conditional upon organics, and the effort to date has been to understand whether an organics processing solution is available and viable before we get stuck into redesigning collections. So, but because those two projects are so interdependent, our advice is that if you're going to stop organics, then we would recommend you stop any work on collections, irrespective of whether or not a formal business case approval has been received.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Chang.
Could you just confirm that that we haven't actually engaged risked any money to actually engage with other organisations to discuss this? So we haven't made any commitment to them at all?
Through the procurement process? No, we have not.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Calvert.
Yeah, I see the changes made to number 2, so it is now really just focusing on organics as opposed to rubbish and recycling, and I'm assuming that's covered off in number 3. Is that correct? Okay. So my question now is about number 4. Now, this is not about allocated money or budget. This is about a project plan that actually we're saying now is not going to work. So how can you pause progression on this particular plan that had previously been approved under the outdated business cases? What do officers have a view of what does that mean to you if you're pausing a particular plan?
So the way I take that, Councillor Calvert, is that no further work will be done to progress those projects as they sit and are structured at the moment. But the money will remain in the LTP, and we will continue with the work that we've been instructed to do here. And that councillors will make further decisions in due course, and that I assume during the LTP deliberation period, as to whether or not the projects as they are structured right now continue, or some other form of project, or none.
So how would you just not set up, depending on what comes out of the investigations, and I'm assuming because we're looking at a different approach now, why would the current project plan still stand? Would it not be a new plan that you'd have to put before us with a new business case?
We may have to. That's very feasible. There are possibly, we know that there are indications of other options happening that may mean that we can achieve something similar to the business case. We don't know that yet. We can't commit to that yet. Time will tell, and this will allow us to go away and do that work and report back to you with the appropriate evidence.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll come back to you, Councillor Calvert. You had three. Anyone else? Councillor Rundle?
Yes, the officer recommended option included removing the budget provisions from the long-term plan, including the further commitments of capital expenditure at a time when our debt ratio exceeds our maximum. What impact would keeping this project funding have on the long-term plan compared to what officers would do? I mean, how much more money will be set aside in our long-term plan due to this project not being cancelled? And will that make a difference as to when we will finally get back into below our maximum financial limit?
So a couple of points there, Councillor. First of all, remember waste is ring-fenced. And the second point is, depending on which option would be chosen, no debt is anticipated to be used as part of these projects. The capital is primarily used, or almost entirely used, again, depending on which option, through the landfill surplus. So it won't have an impact on your debt to revenue ratio because we won't be incurring debt unless a significant organics processing facility was instructed, which we were anticipating would incur some debt.
Was that the 17 million?
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Calvert, if you have a question now.
Yeah, so numbers keep changing, but I think it's number 5 now. Can I just clarify what officers understand to be the project costs? Because it says 150k per annum, but we are really essentially only talking about 1 year?
Yes, so in the August 2025 business case, the costs were split up with essentially costs to deliver and implement the solution and project costs, which we're finding it challenging to phrase them appropriately, but essentially is all the work to get to that point before delivery. And that was retained at $150,000 per annum this year and next year. Next year and the year after, slightly more this year. What we are proposing to do is assuming that what we take as the intention of this amendment is to protect the funding for later decisions, then that funding would be protected except for the project costs, which would allow us to go and do this work as we've been directed. The work is resource intensive, it will take time, and we will need resourcing to do it, and that will allow us to do that.
But I'm just trying to understand is how much do you see as that total budget leading up to 27-28? Is it 150k, or is there some money left over this current financial year?
There is some money left over this current financial year. Primarily, a lot of this has been done internally. We really need to look at what we're being asked to do by committee, though, and be realistic about what resourcing requirements we need to deliver what you ask us within the timeframes, and make sure we're set up to deliver, and this will allow us to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd really like to understand is then how much...
Councillor Calvert.
How much is it?
Councillor Calvert, yesterday we had a discussion and a question time, and I understand you are questioning to the amendment, and you are now... I think this is the 8th question. I've been very generous in taking the time of everyone else. I will give you one last question to go ahead with, and then we will go to the debate where you can also make your point.
So I'm really just understanding is what officers see as the current the budget to do the investigation work.
Okay, so that's 150,000 is included in the annual plan for next year, 26-27. I know there's another 150 for the year after. There is currently money in this current annual plan, current year, which is allocated at 250,000. We we cannot tell you right now how much is spent on that. We can report back to you on that. We would look at how much money there was in those 3 years, this current year, next year, and the year after. We do not believe we would come anywhere near that amount. But that's what this amendment would allow us to spend, depending on when we reported back.
Thank you, officers. And I don't see any more hands, so we wrap up the question on that. Do I have the mover for the motion? Councillor Fawn.
Chair, 2 questions. Can we just scroll down to check the...
I'm sorry, not question time. Now you're moving.
I just wanted to look at the balance of amendments just to check that they were there. Thank you. And if 4 minutes were available, I would greatly appreciate it.
I'll guarantee that and move the paper.
Kia ora tātou, and also I just do want to back the Mayor up, and apologies for the delay and getting this out from yesterday, but I do want to clarify that these are exactly the same amendments that were sent through, apart from the first one, which we've now changed. I'd also like to thank all of the submitters for this morning for their wealth of knowledge and giving us a cohesive understanding of what's happening in the community. Look, I think the main gist of the amendment here is that we are asking, the amendment is asking to pause and not stop the curbside recycling design and organics collection, but to work on it with communities and to keep the money in the long-term plan and to make consecutive decisions as we need to down the track. But I just want to go back to, why do we need an organics collection? Well, we've had 32 landfills in this city, which averages at about 1 every 5 years, and we're up to our 33rd, which, has the possibility of becoming a mega landfill. We've watched Porirua fill up, needlessly, because there weren't any diversion options there, which is going to impact on us. But the biggest story is that continuing landfilling is not sustainable. And the solution, or one of the solutions, is to divert. And so that's where this organics project has come from, was to divert, because this is the next major amount of waste or resource that is being put into our landfill. And a good question is, why do all the other metros offer and have an organics collection? Because in the long run, it's cheaper to divert than to use precious landfill space or to freight it away. And the reality is that's what we're looking at. And just a side note, as New Zealanders, we're one of the 3rd highest in the OECD in our waste habits. And so that's quite embarrassing for our pure brand. But we should pause and not cease. Because of the costs, we don't know the counterfactual yet. We don't know what it will cost residents in the long run if we don't. And we know our water system is a good example. And if landfill fees are proposed to double, which was what we discussed yesterday, diversion is an even more cost-effective option. And we're already charging residents the $70 on top of our own gate fee. And the objective of this from the government was so that we created alternatives to divert. And we haven't been able to do that yet. So we should keep this as a pause. We should also keep it as a pause because we've still got opportunity, as we've just been discussing. There's opportunity in the regional model and what we can do regionally. There's opportunity with Manawatu, and there are technologies coming online all the time. Also, we shouldn't stop but pause because of all the work that we've done. And Geordie Rogers, the digital guy, just commented, but I did want to bring on what was in my files. And this is about 1/4 of the hundreds of decisions, the hours of meetings, the cost of officers' time that we've put into this to date. Also, from pre-councils, Councillor Pannett worked so hard to get the Parakai Organics Collection trial in Miramar. Past mayors have tried. So we should pause and not cease, because we don't have the full picture on cost to our communities. We still have opportunity, and we've done all the work to get us to this far. Also, our communities really stepped up for us to show us what we've got in existing infrastructure, and we heard that today. And that, as the Mayor said, the other asset we have is a willing community and willing people who desperately want to do this work. And I'm sure you can appreciate it's not a way to a wealthy income for oneself, but people really care and can see the opportunity. And I just want to say we've got so many examples which we've normalised. The feel-good system at the Sky Stadium. We didn't used to do that. We used to throw every single-use cups away. Now we have a system which we reuse. At events, we now divert and recycle. All of these are now normalised. Perhaps organics collection can become normalised as well. So I think we heard it today, localised diversion systems that we is also in amendment number 8.
Councillor, I know you are very passionate on this. I'll give you more. Okay.
There you go. Kia ora. So thank you and look forward to your support.
Thank you for your speech, Councillor Fawn. And do you have a seconder for the motion? Do you want to speak to the motion?
I'll reserve my right.
Any debate? Councillor Tifanbaka.
Okay, my issue with this is quite simply the fact that for council after council over recent councils, we've been talking about organic collections. We've spent truckloads of money on a citywide solution. When we heard from the submitters earlier on today that we already have so many people doing good things, whether it be composting, whether it be Kai-Cycle, Hannah from Waste Free Wellington, whether it be the Sustainability Trust, we already have people doing that. What we don't do is we're not supporting them because we've been focusing on finding our own solution. So the reality is at the moment, we need to cease this. And the reason we need to stop this is so that we can actually find another solution and stop thinking that we're going to create one ourselves. Because so many things that are wrong with the city could be solved with the people that are already in our city creating it in the council, not trying to solve it for themselves. So I think there's a real misunderstanding that we're against organic collection and we're against getting processes in place. I'm massively against the way we are looking to do it currently. We've been told quite clearly by the officers that the cost of doing it is prohibitive. We know it's a citywide thing. When Auckland's experience is quite simply 40% of people use it after 2 years. After 2 years, and they've plateaued. What we need to be doing is solutions that we already have there right now in upscaling them quickly, because this process would still take another year probably to put in place. When we can get Kai-Cycle, give them some funds, give them some serious cash, give them some space, do exactly what they want so that we can actually get it done quicker. So if you actually want to do something for the environment, I say stop this project right now and actually let people do the job that they want to do, because we do have them here. So we're not opposed on the outcome. We are totally opposed on how we achieve it.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tifanbaka. I'm sure Deputy Councillor Fung would be happy to hear that. And next we have Councillor Compton.
Thank you, Chair. In 2016, Wellington Regional Waste Assessment stated that the southern landfill had capacity of 100 years. So the notion that we're rapidly running out of space is not supported. We are running out of runway of time to plan, consent and build as a region. I fully support ceasing the program as it stands, as there are enough assumptions that have failed to materialise to warrant pausing. Pausing a project doesn't make it work. I would support monies being invested into regional approaches. I'm a huge fan of local community-driven solutions that could and should be leaned into. We should provide targeted investment into these while we develop a much more long-term solution at a regional level. I would be encouraged to look overseas too at the waste-to-energy solutions such as Copenhagen, or even nationally such as EcoGas and Rāpare. Further to my previous comments, I applaud officers for bringing us the reality prior to us investing. This is what we asked for, you've delivered, and we should be grateful. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any hands, so right of reply. Councillor Rundle. Okay.
I literally don't understand this amendment. The discussion here is not about waste. The discussion here is not about organics. The discussion here is about two connected projects to implement a solution that officers have found we cannot afford. I first want to note that this whole thing has been quite a schmozzle. Badly put together, badly justified. One of the business cases has not even been approved. I mean, it's just crazy that they've been working on this and they have not brought us the collections business case for approval. They've only been working off the organics, which was approved last year. And so this is not a well put together program. But it is a very well-intentioned program. Look, the Mayor mentioned that this is a large-scale solution, that people say it's going to make a difference. And I have to challenge that. This organics program, even if it was successful, will only divert 5,000 tonnes of organic waste out of a volume of between 100 and 120,000 tonnes a year. The amount that's being diverted will not make any difference to the extension or the life of any landfill. It won't even make a difference to the smell, because we divert 20,000 tonnes of organics and only 5,000 tonnes, even if it's successful. And success meant diverting 50% of household organics. We heard just last week that Auckland's come up and they've been running it for 2 years, they can only divert 40%. And they've been running for 2 years. This is not going to make any difference. And Councillor Compton's correct. If you look at the capacity that we have in the southern landfill, done in 2016 on the basis of 80,000 tonnes a year, there's 100 years left. 100 years of space. And we need to look at the capacity and the resourcing of all the waste for the region and plan together, unlike what we've been doing. But the other thing which I'm very disappointed in, and is I've not heard a single word from people who propose this amendment, is about the cost of keeping this program. If we go ahead with this, officers have said that it's going to cost 50% more than was assumed, and it was already going to be a 4% targeted rate. We're in a city that's in a financial crisis. I understand that 10% of our ratepayers are already behind on their rates. Are people not aware of what's happening up there and how much people are struggling to pay the rates for the services we provide now? We need to focus on what is important for our residents, not what is necessarily wanted for, irrespective of the work that's gone on into the past. We have a lot of good solutions out there. Therefore, we should can the solution we have chosen to give room for those people who want to step up and do better solutions. Because this is not about, again, about waste. This is not about organics. This is about making a hard decision to stop a program that the officers have said we cannot afford. If we can't support if we want to keep spending money over officer advice, then what hope do we have in terms of making our city more affordable? So I please urge you to vote against this.
Thank you, Councillor. And now we have 3 speakers who spoke against the motion, and I will go back to people who support it, and we got only one. Is there anyone else who would like to speak and support? And are you seconding or? No, I'm speaking. Okay, you speak to it.
I just want to address a couple of the points that people are making. And first of all, I welcome the support for the organisations that are doing the really, really good work, which we note that it's not fair to say that Council hasn't supported. Actually, many of the programs that they outlined today have been actively supported by this Council. However, I would note that those are the very same people that are asking us to do a curbside organics collection and have been working with us on this project throughout. So I don't think we can sort of hide behind our support for the very good work that they're doing and take an opposite position. I want to address the concerns about Auckland because I was talking to an Auckland councillor last night about the decision that we are going to make. And that councillor said to me, please do not let your council use Auckland as a reason why you can't progress this work. Their business case went out to procurement in the middle of COVID. It was extremely difficult times and they were not able to roll out their program in the way that they wanted. They weren't able to do fortnightly collections from the outset, and it does mean uptake has been slower than it would have been, and it is much more successfully rolled out at smaller councils than us throughout the Motu. I mean, I do think that some of this, the idea that a curbside organics collection is being framed as an impossible hurdle to climb when actually many councils are doing it cost effectively and are diverting that waste from their landfill. So that we need to ask those hard questions. Why can we not do this more affordably in Wellington? And that is the conversation I want to have. But that councillor said to me, we are still very glad we have do it. We are supporting growers and we are diverting tens of thousands of tonnes from landfill. The other thing I want to address is the affordability problem. And I think that, yes, we do have to be very careful about the rates increases that and the conditions that we find ourselves in. But what is often lost or misinterpreted in, even with, and we need to kind of redo those numbers about a targeted rate, but under the targeted rate we were proposing, 2/3 of people would have been better off because they are not paying for the rubbish bags that they currently are. So, I think we can't cherry pick the facts in order to continue to do very little when it comes to our waste problems. Actually, organics potentially can be affordable, sustainable, and we can do it. Many others are doing it. So all we are asking is to keep doing work and make sure we carry all of these options forward while minimising our risk, but keeping our eyes on the prize. And the prize is not more landfills. The prize is diversion from landfills.
Thank you. Councillor Roger now.
Yeah, I just briefly wanted to address some of, councillors framed that they weren't able to support this amendment because of particular aspects, but I would encourage those councillors to read the amendment in its entirety and recognise that actually some of the things you spoke to are represented in these words. Councillor Tiefenbacher, you particularly talked about the need to support the community options that are happening. I do hope that we can expect to see your support for continuing to look at how we can expand those community options, continuing to empower the things that they are doing. Councillor Compton, you talked about the support for the regional solutions. I hope that we can have your support in the aspects that do talk about looking at a regional solution. And Councillor Randall, you talked about the fact that this program is well-intentioned but not put together. I hope that you can support the fact that we are asking to take a brand new holistic look at this, involve the region, involve community solutions, and think about where we can best invest the money that we have set aside in the LTP so that it is delivering value for our communities. I think this isn't just about organics, as you said. It isn't just about our waste system, but it is about all of these things working together. And we know we have significant hurdles coming up against us. I think continually undercooked is the effect that the expansion of the landfill has on communities. We heard about the Ōwhiro Bay Residents Association, who talk about the impact of trucks constantly driving through. If we expect the southern landfill to become the landfill of the Wellington region, that means all of those trucks also coming through our city centre. We have a massive amount of work to do in front of us, and what I hope that you can support is a way that we work with everyone around us, whether that's a community, another council, or private operators, to make sure that we do have a solution that extends the life of the landfill and minimises all of those costs that will fall on our communities through inaction alone. So I would encourage you to support this amendment.
Okay, Councillor Foon, do you want to have last right of reply?
Yeah, kia ora, thank you, Chair. Oh, sorry.
I saw you put your hands up, but I just said 3 in support, 3 against, so I'm going back to the mover to...
Point of order.
Yes.
What's the reason? I just want to ask the chair to explain why he's restricting the debate on this item.
Well, I'm not restricting since we have a limited time, and just for all of us to use our time wisely. And we already heard from 3 people who are against the motion, 3 people who are in support of it. And I just thought we can just move into concluding the meeting. And what was the, as a chair?
I just think this is a very, very important decision. It's actually noted, for example, that the decision recommended by officers, I mean, I think it's an important decision when officers recommend such a significant decision that they have to note that it's affecting the long-term plan. And it's also of interest to say that now we're having elected members proposing an amendment that's overriding the officer's recommendation on this important decision. Officers do not put up recommendations to move away from the long-term plan lightly, and I'd just like to hear the rest of the debate.
Yep. Look, I'm not going to go into much of a debate, and if Councillor Covert, you just really want to put in, and you can go ahead. I think you have the right to do it, even though I have the right to continue with right of reply. But if you have something very important to say, for the sake of unity, we don't want to fight on small things.
Thank you.
You can
Thank you.
put your point.
I always have something important to say, Chair. Look, I am going to support, obviously, number 2 and number 3, because I think this is really important. And this really started off, our whole plans really started off from a regional approach. It was just unfortunate that Porirua pulled out and then the hut paused. But we need to get back and really work on that regional approach. So I'm very happy to support that approach. However, I can't agree just to pause this particular project. We have heard from the business case. We've heard from officers yesterday. We saw a spreadsheet. We had lots of red at the bottom. It's just the current proposal is not sustainable. So what this means is we put this to bed. We pick up what we're doing under 2 and 3. And also, I think there was another one about working with our community. So I think that's where the solution lies, and that's where we should be focusing on. And look, this current project, one of the reasons we want to cease it, it's never been a well project. If you look back through the quarterly reports on significant projects, there was always issues around it, which is why we asked officers to come back to us in I think it was June 2005, and then full information coming back to us in August 2025. There were always been issues with it. It's not working. Let's just cease it and let's look at the options. And we've heard from our community, and our community, they've actually been and talked to us before about this, about actually doing things in stages and supporting them. And we should be leveraging off our partners. So I will support that. But we do not need to carry on with this existing project because it's obviously not working. It's a bit of a dog, and we need to get something that works for us, the council, the ratepayers, and the community. And in terms of what we've seen in Auckland, they've had, COVID was actually 5 years ago in terms of the major thing, 5 or 6 years ago. We have actually seen that they went out to the community fought back and said, we want you to pick up our rubbish weekly, not fortnightly. And so they've responded to that and listened to the community. The other thing is, we had moved forward with where we wanted to be. We could have reduced the amount of plastic bags going into our rubbish now. We could have had a rubbish bin for collection. What we've been too caught up on is this food waste collection. We're all supportive of green waste and collection. It's this little tiny bin for food waste that's stopped us making progress. So let's just stop that now, move where we can really make a difference to reducing our landfill. So I ask that you don't support number 4, and if we're not supporting number 4, then number 9 needs to stay back in. And I think there was another one, but I can't remember now. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Calvert. I'm sure Deputy Mayor is convinced and not voting for it. Deputy Mayor, can you... Oh. My name is still in last try. Okay, Councillor
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Councillor Foon, and right of reply.
Yeah, kia ora, Chair, thank you. Look, thank you for the debate, colleagues. And you know, I wouldn't call this project a dog, Councillor Calvert. In fact, in my world, it's a diamond. And I know that that's hard to understand. But I think many communities around the world are doing an organics collection because it works. And so, you know, and while we might not have this one quite right, like I accept that, but we are asking just to pause so that if another opportunity comes up, we are available to look at it. And thank you for your support on the community-led programs. Look, just one of the questions in the Q&A, we get about $2 million back from the Waste Minimisation Fund, and we've only spent 1.4% on organics in the last year. So I think there's a really big opportunity in the LTP to review that and how we spend it alongside the community. Councillor Compton, just wanted to come back. Look, I invite you down to come and have some time, come and have a cup of tea down south with the communities and just get a sense check of the, you know, the Kerry's Gully project. When I started, that was the project on the books, 100 years worth of landfill up the back, and the communities strongly come against that, including waste to incineration. And I understand that Europe's also now not seeing that as a viable project, but lots of debate to go there. But look, the request is let's keep our options open, let's work with the community, and let's look regionally. That absolutely the scale there, if it came along, would be really help us. My experience working with the regional waste community is it has been very slow to progress, so any help from the Mayoral Forum would be greatly appreciated. Yeah. So kia ora, please support, let's support our communities in the LTP, and thank officers for the work as well.
Kia ora, councillors. I think you want to take separately and the clauses and division as well.
Yeah.
So can we just go first to motion number 2?
So 1 and 2? Is it 1 and 2?
Just 2.
Just 2.
Oh, just 2.
Declare carried. And number 3? Resolution 3. It's carried. Resolution 4.
It's not on YouTube.
That's carried. And resolution 5. Or recommendation number 5. That's carried. Resolution number, do we have further up? 8. That's carried. And what is next? So now the remaining clause.
Can we take 9 as well, because that's actually part of the amendment?
Can we get 9? It's part of the amendment to remove that one, so we need to vote on number 9 as well. Huh?
Could we clarify what a green vote would do to number 9, please, and what a red vote would do before closing?
So yes means, green means you are saying yes to removing resolution or recommendation number 9. Yeah. Okay. Mayor Little wants to correct his one. Could you say it on the speaker, Mayor?
My vote should be a green vote. Well, a red vote, but or a green vote.
Oh, I see some happy people on that side. That's never happened, you know. Okay, now the remaining clauses. We vote on the remaining clauses. 1, 6, 7. Oh yeah, 1, 6, 7.
These were just amendments, so don't we go back to the main debate? Yeah.
Okay, look, what I've learned in standing order in the last 4 years is not only councillors, even Democracy Service get sometimes new learning and when we confuse them. So now we go back to the main paper and any debates on it. The mayor is already been moved, and any.
I'm going to vote against.
Is there any debate on the main paper? I think it's lunchtime as well, so let's see. Yes, it's already there. Okay, if there is no debate, and you can have a right of reply, Pee Kelly.
Very briefly, thank you for the debate and the discussion from everyone. It was very confusing, but I think I landed of where I think it would be best for our city. Thank you.
Mayor, do you want to Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Randall?
So look, hopefully this isn't preemptive then, just want to really clarify the outcome of where we've got to, because a lot gets lost in what we just do in the votes and the process. And let's just straight up, the Mayor's apologised, Laurie's apologised. Process on this one wasn't good, totally acknowledging that. But what's the outcome of the votes today? I'm just going to use Beth's words. No further work will be done to progress the projects. Money will remain in the LTP. Councillors will make further decisions. That's the outcome. This job's a bit funny because it turns you into a little bit of a libertarian at times about where and how the council should intervene. You know, do we activate Tanako Civic Square ourselves, or is that money best spent supporting someone like Cuba Duper at the same level for the outcome you're trying to achieve? And I take really strongly what the waste community, who are the experts, have told us, because they are the experts that know this community better than anyone else. And they've said there needs to be some kind of continued commitment. That's what they want to see. So if we're going to empower the volunteer community and the people on the front lines, then I think we should probably listen to their holistic advice and not just pick pieces of what we like that they say or what we don't like that they say. I did think about an amendment to rename the project something like the Wellington City Future Waste Management Project, so that the LTP budget allocation would sort of align with the intention of where the council's come to. But I'm just going to come back to the outcomes of what Beth has advised comes out of today's vote. No further work will be done to progress these projects. Money will remain in the LTP. Councillors will make further decisions. I'm comfortable with that outcome.
Councillor Randall.
Thank you, Councillor McNulty. I think for different elected members in Pauiwi, today's vote has different outcomes, and we're learning different lessons as this council goes along. This vote was about organics, not waste, for a start, and about an organic solution that the city can't afford, but that this council can't make a hard decision to stop. I also want to note that we took the officer's recommendation. I think the officers have done some really hard work. They've tried very, very hard to make this organic solution fly. We've tried building our own organics processing. We've tried going to the market. It's all too expensive. Wellington is an expensive city, it seems. So the decision to override the officer's recommendation is a political decision. It's a decision that elected members have made from a political point of view. For me, I think that it's disappointing that the big issue the city faces, which is affordability, is not being tackled head on, that this council cannot make a hard decision to simply stop something that's not essential. And I just also would note, and picking up on Councillor McNulty's, we did have a bit of a bad process on this. I thank the chair and the elected members for correcting it, even if it was last minute. But I think we've done and dealt with this issue in the right way, in the right order, so that the public understands where people are coming from individual elected members. But I do want to say that this vote, as a political vote and as a decision at a time when the council needs to make some hard decisions, is a big disappointment.
Next, we have Councillor Curvett.
Yes, just very briefly, I'd just like the end recommendations to be taken separately, because I will still be voting against 4 and 5. 4, again, is I think we just need to be bold enough to say this current project that we have is not delivering the objectives that we've wanted. We have to look at it differently. And this is about getting value for money, simply as that. We all know we need to find better ways of dealing with our waste. And the sooner we accept that this project the current project is not working, then we can get on and actually start making a difference for ratepayers and for our environment. So I asked the 4 and 5. 5 is because, again, it's just like a bottomless pit of money. We need to be specific with money we're putting in to enable officers to work towards finding us options. So I'm not going to support a bottomless pit of money. Thank you.
And now I go back to Mayor for a right of reply.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, colleagues, for the debate on this. It has been very important. I reject the proposition that this is a commitment to spend a bottomless pit of money. It's the opposite of that. It is taking no further action on this particular project. We are not making decisions on the LTP today. That's for a different time and a different debate. But what we can't avoid, and what would be a decision leading to unaffordability, is if we don't continue the work of tackling the waste diversion and waste minimisation challenge that we have, and we've got incredible community effort that we can draw on and harness and draw wisdom from, and we should be doing that. This is an opportunity to do that. It's an opportunity to talk to our neighbouring councils in the region to see how they are meeting that challenge and what we can do together. If we don't continue the effort to do that we just shove the cost onto another generation, which is kind of the history of local government in New Zealand generally. And I think we've got to be bigger and better than that. We have to address the issue. This project, as we all know, the one that was commenced and that we're now not taking any further action on, has been proven to be unviable. But we still have to address the underlying problem. So I'm thankful that as a consequence of the debate we have seen, there is some common ground here between all councillors. So let's harness that for our own efforts on that. These decisions, these resolutions are never perfect, and they don't stop. Our decision-making obligations don't stop now, don't stop today. We still have more decisions to take. But what that underscores is that we remain, as council laws, we remain in control of the destiny of the way this council addresses this challenge. And I'm confident that we will do so. We will do so on a basis that is credible and affordable to Wellingtonians. But that credibility will be based on a council that is courageous enough to continue to address this problem that could easily be swept aside. But we're a council that has more foresight than that. and we're willing to continue to challenge it. Thank you.
Kia ora, Mayor. And now I put the motion that has been moved and seconded to a vote.
I'd like 4 and 5 to be taken separately, please.
Yep, we will do that. Not a problem.
Division.
Yep. So which one we voting? We're voting on 5, right? 4, number 4.
4.
Yep. Carried. What is next? Now we vote on number 5. I declare carried. And now the rest of the resolutions. Is that what you want? Yeah. Okay, read. Okay, we carried. Councillors, I know some councillors are really in a hurry, and I hope we can finish the decision register quickly. Now we go to that one, and I'll take as read. Any questions for officers? No. Can I have the mover of the motion, please? Councillor Matua. Do you want to speak to? Seconder, Councillor Compton. Any debate? No. Can we vote on this, please? I put the motion for vote. Press 1 in support, 2 against. Cool. And there is an hour lunch break, and before that we go to closing karakia. Unuhia, unuhia, unuhia kiti uru tapunui, kia watia, kia mama, te nako, te tenena, te awaru. Eti ta tatakuru, koara e rongo, whakare ake kirunga, kia watia, ara koa watia. I began the meeting with wishing the mayor happy birthday. I conclude the meeting with wishing all the best Steph for stepping up into a new role. And Tian, we wish you all the best and where are you going?